Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. I invite everyone to rise and join Council in O Canada. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, as I understand it, we have regrets from Councillor Lapworth. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest, Council? I see none. Oh, Councillor Knoll.
Yes, I do have a declaration of pecuniary interest on the Administrative Services Committee. There is an item related to, I don't have the number in front of me. Six. Thank you, Councillor Adams. Item number 6 relates to the funding of the business improvement areas. I'm a member, or corporate member, of the Kerr Street BIA, and as such, I would appreciate it if the Kerr Street portion of that resolution could be voted on separately, because I have a pecuniary interest.
That is going to be done. We do that on request. Anything else? All right. Council, you have before you the minutes of the previous council meetings of April 4th and April 18th, and the confidential minutes of the closed planning and development session of council April 18th. Are you satisfied with the minutes? Councillor Duddeck moves a confirmation of the minutes. Councillor O'Meara seconds. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed if any, and the minutes are confirmed. We have no public presentations listed for this agenda, but we do have several delegations concerning matters in the standing committee reports. I believe they might all be the Community Services Committee report item 4 on traffic calming, but maybe it's speed limit and traffic calming. 3 and 4. Right. So 3 and 4. So Madam Clerk, would you call the first listed delegation?
The first listed delegation is Scott Ralph, here to speak to item 4 on the Community Services Committee meeting.
Mr. Ralph, welcome. Come right on up to the podium, and Council looks forward to your information. I understand that you might have had a chance to share it with practically every member of Council at the committee, but we're here to hear you again.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just winged it last time, and I don't remember what I said last time, but I live on Ridge Drive, as does my neighbor Collette. So we've had a number of the calming measures applied to our street. This includes the line down the center, the line down the sides, as well as the flashing radar. I think no one is in dispute about how effective these are. They have a limited effect for a short time. And it seems that we're very much waiting for a more effective treatment for the street, as the racing on it is obscene. I've certainly had people pass me at 90 kilometers an hour going down our road, and there is a school at the end of our street. I believe these people are trying to circumvent a couple stop signs on their way going down 6th line to Leyland, as an example, but it certainly becomes quite a racing zone. So I understand that that there's an expense, et cetera, with physical measures being widely viewed as the only really effective means of this, whether it be a chicane or a speed bump or what have you. And I think it was Councillor Hutchins who had the good idea that if people are willing to host something in the area, which clearly almost everyone in our neighborhood, like to a T, I can't think of a single person who would not want it. If we were allowed to self-fund it, we would do that today. So I think we just would like some other more effective means. When we hear things about the city's potential liability for damage or things like that, that seems rather nebulous. I'd like to hear some numbers about actually what the liability is with respect to litigation by damage of cars. I don't really think it's that big a deal. Also, occasionally hear another argument that EMS is slowed down by this. For me, it just seems like a textbook case of public health, of reducing the problem at the source has to be the right solution. And if it really is a big problem with EMS, then maybe they can bring numbers to that effect and actually quantify it. That would be my view anyway. So I guess in closing, I hate to reiterate again, but just something more effective on our road, we would very much welcome. We are not adverse to paying for it ourselves. We just don't want racing going down our streets at an incredible rate.
Thank you very much for sharing your information with us. Can I just ask you a quick follow-up question?
Certainly.
When you refer to racing, are you trying to, by using the word racing, are you just trying to stress that they're going too fast, or are they actually racing?
So they will pull out, if I have the audacity to slow down to turn into my driveway, they will scream past me, going past the center line, and at incredible rates.
So you mean to stress that they're going too fast?
Yeah, on one occasion a few months ago, I had someone who didn't like the fact that I came to a full stop at the top of Kent, so they went careening around me, and then proceeded to try to outpace me as I went down the road to Kent. He then actually went through that intersection, because he's not a very good driver. But that's the kind of, I don't know if they're getting into some sort of mentality of I must get to the GO train no matter what, but it's remarkable.
It is
So,
remarkable.
I know one other aspect of that would be enforcement, and we've certainly welcomed that as well. There have been, I think a couple years back there was a DUI on our road, and we said, look, we don't work in our house, and you're welcome to park here anytime, because there was some notion of, well, where can we park to try to enforce? I think enforcement would be lovely too. I realize that that's actually a regional thing and not a municipal thing, but I very much would welcome that.
Well, as it happens, we're able to communicate with them. We may be able to arrange something for you. Councillor Grant has a question for you as well.
Okay.
Well, not a question, but to follow up, certainly we can have the police, as we have in the past, go along Ridge Road. And I think we communicated through email about the fact that the radar traffic displays did seem to, from what I'd heard from everybody colloquially, slow down traffic. One of the other concerns that I have, now I'm not sure how far involved you were with the College Park transportation study process. It was a 2-year plan that we got everybody within College Park to talk about issues on their street, including Ridge Road.
I think I meant to do that, but then
Okay, well,
didn't
the thing is that the concern with that, and the reason why we started it, was because if you solve a problem in one spot, it moves somewhere else.
for sure.
And so the concern that we have with ideas that are kind of thrown out, like, say, somebody paying for traffic calming in their one street, you're then moving it up or down. So to your benefit, great, but then your neighbors in the whole area have to pay for what happens to the fact that you've got a better transportation, you've got less speeding, and they've got more speeding. So the College Park Transportation Study, the idea behind that was to try and solve all the problems at once. Now, I don't see Lynn Rogers in the room, but certainly if you want to contact me through email,
Sure.
because we've talked already, I can get you in touch with Lynn Rogers, and we can talk about some of the stuff that we've been doing with the College Park Transportation Study. It's a living document. We want to solve it. I've already mentioned that we're trying to stop the problems from Kent to Ridge. And certainly, rather than doing just one of these things where, yeah, I've solved your problem, but then I've got to go down the street and solve your neighbor's problems. I think it would be better if we just, again, holistically look at the entire area.
For sure, and I have enough on my plate that I don't want to do city planning as well.
Yeah.
But all I was trying to emphasize was I would like to lower any sort of impediments for effective action, and if that means cutting a check, hosting it, whatever, you have my full attention.
Well, anyways, thank you very much, and please do contact me.
Certainly, thank you very much.
So, Mr. Ralph, I just wanted to, there were two other things that you said that maybe I'd like to try to help with, also for the benefit of any public watching. If you were told by anyone that there was some risk about liability or damage to cars from traffic calming, such as speed bumps, I think the thing that needs to be put out is we have speed bumps all over town.
Yep.
And we didn't object to doing that on those grounds. So I would dismiss those, I mean, if I were in your place, I would be dismissing those arguments because the town hasn't used those arguments. I mean, we ignored those when we put the speed bumps we have in.
I don't remember the source of that. I don't know if it was like, it may not have even been official, it may have, but
Okay. All right.
my memory's not always the best. But.
So all over town, we've for generations wrestled with the difference between most of us who are law-abiding and want a peaceful place to live, and those of us who think that those rules don't apply to them, if I can put it that way. And we'll continue to fight that good fight, and we'll work with you. So thank you very much for bringing
Thanks very much.
information. Sorry. Oh, Councillor O'Meara.
Sorry, Mr. Earl, one more question here. Sorry, sir. I just have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. I think we're all in agreement here that we want to reduce speeding and use traffic calming measures. What we're doing tonight is we're trying to agree on a process of how to do that. And I'm wondering if you had a chance to read the recommendations on the speed limit review and on the traffic calming process, and whether you think what is before you is going to work on your street.
I read the recommendations. From what I recall, that was a process of just review and looking for candidates. I don't know that it actually specified additional action for physical remediation, was there?
I guess one question would be, are you close to a school or a community center, which would be one of the identified locations?
Yes, and I think we've been quite active. We've had all of the passive methodologies already applied.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm really trying to get at is we're going to vote on this tonight, and I just want to make sure it's going to make a difference. And from what I just heard, there's already a lower speed limit by a school. So you might be outside the warrants to get any traffic calming measures. It doesn't matter whether you'd pay for them or not. I'm just trying to figure out if you feel that what we're about to vote on tonight is good enough for your street, or to do what you would like to see done.
Personally, I would rather see a little bit more of an emphasis on physical methodologies, but I understand that it's a difficult problem to address. So,
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
The next delegation is Mandeep Ari, also speaking to item 4 on the Community Services Committee agenda.
Mr. Airy? I don't see him. One more time, Mr. Airy? I don't think he's here. Call the next delegation,
James
please.
Armstrong is also here to speak to items 3 and 4.
I see Mr. Armstrong. Welcome, Mr. Armstrong. Council looks forward to your information.
I just arrived. Are we doing traffic calming or speeding or both?
We're doing everything you want.
Okay.
You have up to 10 minutes, and you can talk about either of those things, or both.
Okay. I'll start with speeding. I live in Morrison Road at the north end, and for 2 years, myself and my neighbors have tried to get some police action to stop the speeding. Not just speeding, but racing on our street. Even though we have a stop sign at the north end and we have a stop sign at Lynbrook, which is 500 meters away, we still get people starting at that stop sign and getting to that stop sign in about 4 seconds. And this is quite common, happens every day. At the north end, which is just 150 meters south of Cornwall, there's a four-way stop. And quite often there's a police unit sitting there to stop those who run through the stop sign, basically. But there's only 150 meters to the traffic lights, so I don't understand why that four-way stop is there to slow anyone down or so on, because in 150 meters they have to stop anyway. Myself and my neighbor's suggestion, well, there's two suggestions. One is to have a stop sign halfway down between these two stop signs. There's a street called Cumnock Crescent, and across the road is Colleen Crescent. Now, there's no houses immediately there, so it wouldn't bother anyone to have a stop sign put there in both directions to slow down at least. And you will just slow them down. They'll go right through it. I've witnessed this many, many times. I can see the stop sign from my front window. Also, if a traffic calming process would be helpful too. In that four-way stop is quite a large area with grass and so on. A little bit of traffic calming in that spot would do the same job. So these are our two recommendations. We have one request, that the police unit that sits at the northern stop sign could possibly sit halfway down the road for every so often, be visual, so the cars going in both directions see that there is a police presence on the road. We've never had that, although we've tried for a couple of years now. And I think that's a simple request, just to have a unit every so often sit and be visual to everyone, just so they say, oh, I shouldn't race down here anymore because that Mr. Policeman might be sitting right there. And that's just about the gist of our problem. If anything can be done with that, I know this is all over Oakville. Every day I see it that we have many, many bad drivers, speeding, tailgating, et cetera. And I can't do anything about all of Oakville, but I'm going to keep trying to do something about our street. And that's about all I have to say. I hope you'll take it into consideration, and we'll see some results.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you. Questions?
I'll tell you that I spoke to a club of gentlemen of a more advanced age than you or I, and instead of demanding that we slow traffic down, they were demanding that we remove stop signs and speed it up. And their complaint was that they wanted to get from A to B before they died. And, but I'm pretty sure they're not the ones that are causing the really outrageous speeding that we have.
It's our local drivers. I know several of them, and they just like to race down the street. I don't get it, but.
I have stood with my wife at the bus stop on Ford Drive at the corner of Aspen Forest, where we live. And I'm fairly well known, and I've watched people I know just sail right through those stop signs.
Yes, very common.
So it points back to something that the traffic engineers have warned council about over the years, over and over again, which is we civilians can believe that a stop sign or whatever will solve the problem, but they assure us, and the evidence that I've just cited and your own, is that stop signs don't stop people.
Briefly.
Unless they feel that there's a danger of cross-traffic colliding with them.
Yeah.
So we've, if you remember, do you remember when we put, back in the 90s, all those speed bumps on Chartwell?
Yes.
And the first thing we discovered was that the people inconvenienced were the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
This is a terrible, naughty problem, and we have all over town put speed bumps in, and 6 months later had the same people who wanted them ask us to move them out because they didn't like them.
Well, from our point of view, those particular speed bumps, I know they're the low traffic calming speed bumps. The people who live in that area move over to Morrison Road. And now we have twice or three times the traffic we used to have. In fact, there are traffic jams every weekday morning in front of my house. And it goes on 15, 20 minutes. This is a residential street. So I can sit and watch them, and they move forward, 3 or more come in, and it's just an endless parade. There could be 15, 20 cars. So that's what's happened. On the other side, on Maple Grove, they've put the speed bumps with good reason in front of the schools, and those are bumps you have to stop to go over. Those people also have moved over to our street. So you can imagine what we're in for.
Exactly, and I gather you're not asking for speed bumps on Morris?
No.
Okay.
What we're really asking for is on and off to have some police presence, that's all. You don't have to spend any money. They say the policeman is up at the corner there, and everyone stops there now because so many have got caught. And if he went down to the middle, he doesn't have to have radar or anything. He just has to say, we're here.
So you're actually asking for driver training?
That's true. I never thought of it that way.
Well, we'll see what we can do to accommodate you on that. Thank
Would
you very
appreciate
much
it.
for.
So would my
bringing-
neighbors.
Oh, wait. Councillor Hutchins has a question for you. Morrison.
Morrison, are you allowed to park cars on the street?
Yes, but I think there's no sign saying you can't. But if you do, the cars are going to be going around you, so I wouldn't park there because you might just get scraped every so often. It's quite a narrow street. It's just one lane each way.
My point was that, you know, what slows people down are things like chicanes and,
Yes.
and narrowing the streets. And the problem with paint is people ignore it after a while. So if there is an ability to park cars along the street, that's one of the ways I would suggest that the neighbors could get together to do that and put it out as like, and create the sort of the narrow streets deliberately that way.
It would do that, but you're leaving your car at risk.
I understand.
We'd have to invest in some beaters.
Which was one of the reasons why I was asking previously at the CSC committee if the town supervised it, if people could get their own barriers to put out there to narrow the roads if necessary, if that was of help.
I failed to mention it, but I really should have, that there are 6 schools in our area that I can walk to. The speed limit in all of our streets, including Morrison, is 40 for that reason. But the people driving either don't know it or don't care, and what has become standard procedure is to drive fast. And no one has told them any different. I think that's all they need. They need to be told. As you said, driver education.
Well, we will try some driver training, driver education, for sure. And Councillor Giddings would like to extend your visit for a minute.
Thank you so much for coming out 2 weeks in a row. Further to our conversation last week after the meeting, just wanted to confirm that the speed study will be conducted this spring. So
I know you have been working on it, and we all appreciate that. I just wanted everyone else to know, you've probably taken that into account anyway, everyone else here to know that we really would like something done, that's all.
no, I agree. And as Mayor Burton said, not all residents agree with the location of stop signs, which is why we often have presence on Baldwin. And so we'll have to see whether another sign mid-block would help or exasperate the problem.
I think it would, until they realize that there's no one there to stop them, and they'll just go through it the way they always have.
Yeah.
Hence the police presence. On and off, it doesn't have to be once a week, once every 2 weeks, just to sort of wave the flag. That's all we're looking for.
Good stuff. Thanks for coming out.
Mr. Armstrong, thank you very much for bringing information. It's actually very helpful. We've got delegations from both north and south, and I hope that helps all of council understand it's a town-wide problem. So appreciate your effort.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Madam Clerk, would you call the next delegation?
Collette Fowler, also speaking to 3 and 4 items.
Welcome, Ms. Fowler. Council looks forward to your information, and I'll just mop up that little mess.
I just want to, I'm a resident of Ridge Drive. I actually live across the street from Mr. Ralph. And I missed last week's meeting due to illness, so I apologize if anything is repetitive. But I just just would like to explain some of the issues from my perspective. I've been living on Ridge Drive for 16 years now. Some of the issues that we have all seen on our street are speeding, rolling stops, cutting of corners, passing of cars, racing of cars, and we're finding that as the population increases, the speeding is increasing on our street. Some examples, people use the street as a shortcut to the GO station during rush hour, and also to beat the bus. So if they're coming down 6th Line and they're behind the bus, they will use our street as a shortcut to beat the bus to the 4-way stop at the bottom of Leyland and Kent. This is also true during the evening rush. When going westbound on Ridge Drive to north on 6th Line, so for example, if I have to drop my daughter off, she goes to Sunningdale for band practice in the morning, and I'm going westbound to turn right onto 6th Line, the cars that are coming to speed down our street don't even slow to stop, and I've had several near misses and almost head-on collisions with these cars, and then they look at me like I'm doing something wrong when I've come to a full stop. Another issue is rolling stops. It's very rare for someone to stop properly at Kent Avenue and at the Kent Avenue and Ridge Drive intersection. Almost everywhere there is an improper stop for those going south on Kent from Ridge Drive, with people from the eastbound corner almost colliding with Kent Avenue traffic that have the right of way. It's very dangerous for people to cross the street. So for example, you know, when I'm walking my dog in the neighborhood where Mr. Ralph and I live, we're almost in the middle of the street, so we're at the zone where the speed is increasing. You know, they're coming down, and as soon as they round the bend, they pick up speed. So we look to the left, look to the right to cross, and as soon as we go to cross, there's a car speeding down the way. So it's an ongoing problem. There are children on the street. We have elderly residents on the street. I worry for their safety. When they come around, when they are coming westbound, so if they're turning left from Kent onto Ridge Drive, we have a bend, and then it's a straightaway. So as soon as they hit the straightaway, which is where Mr. Ralph and I both were in that area, they just gear up and go right down the street, full speed. I have witnessed cars misjudging the curve going westbound and ending up on people's lawns because they're going too fast to control their car. Cars ending up in the ditch because they are going too fast. There are no curbs on our street, I'm sure that you're aware, and we have deep ditches. My side of the street is the older side of the street, so we were built in the 50s, so the ditches are actually deeper. I've actually seen cars in my ditch because they're going too fast. There's a constant daily barrage of speeders, and on weekends in the evening, it's just a drag race. Sorry. So another thing I wanted to address was the electronic sign. I know, Councillor Grant, that you had said that there were studies showing that had shown to decrease the speed. I actually had been, when that sign was up and I had been walking my dog in the morning and in the evenings, I actually stood there and pointed to the sign to show people you're still speeding when it's speeding. And I actually felt it was incentive for people to speed, to see if they could beat the sign, right? To get that flashing. That's just my personal feeling. It's not true. I mean, it's not necessarily true. I also feel that the painted lines have been ineffective because people are passing us all the time, as Mr. Rolfe had said, when we're trying to get out of our driveways. So, for example, where I am, and people are coming down the street in the morning, I have plenty of time to get out of my driveway safely. But by the time I go to put it into drive, I have someone on my tail. I have someone on my tail the whole way to the stop, and I do the full stop, but I'm afraid to because I'm afraid the person is going to rear end me. I've had also people pass me as I'm in the street, ready to go, and they just pass and actually have gone into ditches to pass me on the side, just to get past me. Some of my suggestions, and I know that you've talked about some of the calming strategies, but as I said, I wasn't here last week. So speed bumps, humps, or cushions, a sign to warn about children on the street. We still do have a lot of residents who have been on the street for 40, 50 years, but the population of the street is turning over, and we're seeing more younger families come in. Now, my kids are older now. When they were younger, I was worried all the time when they would play hockey in the street. Cars wouldn't even slow down for them. I'm worried about the young families on the street and their children. So a sign about warning children about the street, maybe a double yellow line. I don't know if that's more effective. A safe speed radar sign, more police enforcement. You know, I'm hoping that these solutions, you know, lower speed, we all know, reduces accidents. You know, there's more time to yield for pedestrians and for cars, and we just hope that something is done for the safety of our residents. And I know that it's a speeding issue in general, so maybe, like as Mr. Mayor Burton had said before, that it's not just street specific, it's town specific. So, but you know what I mean. It's more than just Ridge Drive and Morrison Drive. There's a speeding issue.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. So.
I think we all know that.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much. I understand that Councillor Grant has a question.
Oh, I just wanted to mention one more
Oh,
thing.
sure.
Because I know Councillor O'Meara had said something about the school and the speed. There is no speed limit posted because there's a school. And it doesn't even indicate that there's a school on the street. So where Lawrence Hughes used to be, it's actually in the corner.
The councillor was wondering if you had a chance to review the
I haven't.
recommendation that's before council tonight.
I have not, no.
Okay. So Councillor Grant then would have a question for you.
Before I get to questions, I will agree. The radar speed signs do have that video game thing.
Yep.
Where people feel like they have to beat the high score, which is why we keep moving them around and why they're not on your
Oh,
street
okay.
anymore.
Right.
When you talk about rolling stops, I completely understand that. And in fact, one of the recommendations from the College Park Transportation Study is that we're going to try and stop, we're going to do it a three-way stop so that people coming up Kent have to stop instead of like whipping around
Right.
the corner the way they do now.
Right.
So that
Okay.
is a great hope that that'll
Slow
things
the
down a
speed
bit.
going down Ridge, yeah.
But again, let's refer back to the mayor's comment about how stop signs.
Yes.
But nevertheless, please, I would encourage you, and again, I've been down the street several times with one of the residents, Michael Sproul, but again, anytime, even after this, if you want to contact myself or Councillor Knoll, we can
absolutely.
come down the street, and whenever you feel it's like the worst time, we will be there and look at that with you.
Okay, that sounds
Okay?
great.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out
Thank
and
you.
sharing your information with
Thank
us
you.
tonight. Thank you, everybody. Committee, Council, we now get to take up the Community Services Committee report. Councillor Elgar is moving adoption of the Community Services report. Councillor Giddings?
The community services, I had hoped to break that apart. I think staff had something to talk about for.
You can,
happy.
under our rules, only
like to see that
only
separated.
by asking, you can separate items.
Awesome, thank you.
Can I get a seconder for Councillor Elgar's motion? Councillor Adams, thank you. Councillor Giddings, what would you like to separate out?
That would be the item we just heard from the delegates about, number 3 and 4.
All right. And what would you like to do with it?
Well, we were going to hear from the sergeant from HRPS, I believe, as Councillor Duddeck had requested at the last meeting of CSC, and see where it goes from there.
All righty. If there's no other separations, I'll call the vote on the rest of the motion. All those in favor? Any against? And the balance of CSC is adopted. Is the sergeant here and ready to present? Mr. Cozzi, you look like you could possibly qualify to be a sergeant.
Yeah, I
but
was,
you're not one. I
I'm
don't
not a
think.
sergeant, no. Good evening, Mayor Burton, members of council. I was going to introduce the sergeant. I don't think he was prepared to speak this evening, though if there was a specific question that was asked of him, I'm sure he'd be willing to come up here and speak. What I thought I would do.
Well, as I understood it, Councillor Duddeck had a question.
Okay, but there was also a series of questions from committee last week, and I thought that I would go over those requests and those additional recommendations and just update you, and then we can perhaps bring the sergeant up. So if you could just bear with me for just a few moments. I'd like to first just start by saying that the question that Councillor O'Meara ask the first delegate, I want to make it clear that if Ridge Road qualifies for physical traffic calming, we'd be proposing to put a speed hump or a chicane or some type of device on Ridge physical device to help reduce the speeds. We're not talking about just letting the passive measures that were there continue. There would be an opportunity to physically traffic calm Ridge. So at last week's meeting, a number of requests, I believe it was 5 requests from various councillors were asked. I'd just like to go over them and give you an update. So Councillor Duddeck did request that we follow up regarding enforcement of speeding other than using the police force, including using our own traffic bylaw officers. We did speak with our legal department, and they advised us that enforcement staff, either hired by the town or contracted by the town, so including our bylaw officers, would not have the powers of the police officers to stop vehicles and request information, for example, license, registration, insurance from drivers. As such, effective enforcement would require police involvement. At this time, we haven't polled other municipalities. It's only been a week, but we suspect that the similar answer is, from what our legal department is telling us, only the police can provide the enforcement. This was also the point where I was going to introduce Sergeant Gus Bistus, who's now in charge of the district response team, and he's Sergeant Clayton's replacement, and he's here, sitting here, and if there's some questions of him, we'll bring him up here in a few minutes. Second request was from Councillor Adams, who requested additional information regarding the priorities which are to be determined for speeding in locations that qualify for traffic calming. In the appendix of the report, it's detailed, but I'll just summarize it right now. Staff have proposed a scoring system to determine priorities for locations that would qualify for traffic calming. This process awards points for 1, the 85th percentile speed. So if it's higher than the threshold or even higher, it gets more points. Pedestrian and cycling activity in the area. If it's a high generator, it gets more points. Number of driveways in the area. The more driveways there are, the more points it gets. Presence or absence of sidewalks. So if there's no sidewalks, it would score more points. And collision history. If there's a significant collision history on the street, it would get more points. And areas that qualify for traffic calming, therefore, we prioritize according to the number of points they receive. The more points you get, the higher on the list you are. Greater weighting has been provided to achieve pedestrian safety in this model as opposed to the current one that we're using. So it is different. A third request that was made last week from Councillor O'Meara, Councillor O'Meara asked whether speed concerns by residents is a problem. And specifically, we said we would look into the citizen survey to see if that was covered off. And I can tell you that the last citizen survey did not include any questions about speeding issues in residents' neighborhoods. The one significant issue that came out of the survey from a traffic point of view was congestion. Councillor Giddings, fourth request, asked the possibility of implementing photo radar without issuing a ticket, sort of a warning ticket, or issuing a letter from the Halton Regional Police Service to drivers warning of speed with a picture and no points or fine. So we again spoke with our legal department, and they advised us that the town could not use the MTO database to search license plates unless we had a lawful purpose to do so. And this may not qualify as a lawful purpose, and therefore this would essentially stop the process. Even if we had a source of information without approved photo radar legislation in place, there can also be Privacy Commission issues. If we could do this, forgetting all that, if we could do this, there is the issue of cost of carrying out such a program. We do not have specific details handy this evening, but there would be significant costs, we believe, in upgrading the RSDS units to take high-resolution photos, the costs and the license plate recognition software to identify the license plate, the cost in getting the fee that the MTO charges us to secure the license plate information, to get the owner information, the cost, and ultimately the cost of printing and mailing out a warning ticket to the registered vehicle owner. Now, if we liken this to the red light camera program in Halton and Hamilton, they have the same type of costs, only they're charging a ticket fee, and they offset their costs. And I know that their costs are quite significant in running that program. So it is, all I'm saying is there's a cost associated with doing that, even if we could. Fifth request, Councilor Romero raised the issue of warrants and speeds, and staff, we advise that we would present a slide to you, which I'll do that right now. On a discussion of the 85th percentile operating speed. So, and we've explained this previously, the 85th percentile speed is the speed at which 85% of the observed vehicles are traveling at or below. In other words, 85% of the vehicles do not exceed this speed. I think there's been some confusion in what the 85th percentile speed. It's not an average speed. So when we say to qualify, you have to meet the threshold, and you know, the 85th percentile speed has to be above a certain number, and I believe it would be 61 kilometers an hour in a 50 zone. That doesn't mean the average speed is over 61 kilometers an hour. The 50th percentile speed is the median speed of the traffic flow. Half the traffic is traveling below, and half the traffic would be traveling above this speed. Now, that's not an average, but it's probably the closest thing we can get to an average speed when we take a survey. So, this is an actual survey. It's not Ridge Road. I don't remember the name of the street. It's one that did not qualify under our current traffic calming program. And we surveyed this street, and the total number of vehicles was 1,741, and the posted speed limit on this particular street was 50 kilometers an hour. And as you could see, there's a series of speed ranges and the associated traffic count of the volume of cars that are traveling at. So the 85th percentile speed in this case falls within that shaded area. 16% of the traffic is traveling between 55 and 59.9 kilometers per hour when we took the survey. We've calculated the 85th percentile speed to be 56 kilometers an hour. The 50th percentile speed in this particular example is the segment of the traffic that's traveling between 45 and 49.9 kilometers per hour. We've calculated the 50th percentile speed in this case to be 48 kilometers an hour. So here you have an example where when we report an 85th percentile speed and we say the 85th percentile speed on your street is 56 kilometers an hour, and generally we'll get a response back, well, that's too fast. But yet the 50th percentile speed, or the median, or approximately the average, is actually less than the posted speed limit. And that's important to note. And then I know we hear about these people that are traveling at tremendous high rates of speeds, and here's an example. If you look towards the bottom of the table, we have two vehicles who had the audacity to travel 75 to 79 point in that range. That represented 0.2% of the sampled drivers through that area that day. What can I say about that? We need enforcement to deal with those two people. Traffic calming doesn't deal with these people. That's why we use the 85th. And the 85th deals with the majority of the people that are traveling at a speed. And you know, what can we say? There's always outliers. We also had 49 people, on the other hand, traveling less than 30 kilometers an hour. So that's a brief explanation. I won't bother with that slide. The next item that came up from last week was that it was actually a recommendation from Councillor Adams that staff clarify which community center locations would be subject to the 40-kilometer speed limit in order to distinguish between Appendix C of the staff report. And we note that there was an error in Appendix C of our staff report, and we apologize for that. Appendix C listed that Joshua Creek Arena was located on either a local or minor collector road and would be suitable for a full-time 40-kilometer speed limit posting. Joshua Creek Arena is located on the North Service Road East, which we recently extended and connected to Ford Drive. It's a direct connection to the QEW off-ramp at Ford Drive. This would not be an appropriate location to reduce the speed limit. That was our mistake. I apologize, and I thank Councillor Adams for bringing that to our attention. Another recommendation arising from last week was that staff report back on the historical effectiveness of time-of-day flashing beacon speed limit signs at reducing speeds. So we will undertake speed surveys at the ones we presently have today. We'll take surveys at the beacon, and we'll take surveys a certain distance away from the beacon where they're not as visible, and we'll see what the difference in speed is. We'll provide that survey information to you, as well as we will discuss, Burlington has a few of these devices on New Street, and we'll ask them if they have any data on how effective those are. And we'll present this to you. We were going to report back to you anyways, to the Budget Committee, about options on service levels for the RSDS units. And we'll include that information as part of that report. Another recommendation from last week excuse me, was that staff report on opportunities to recover the costs for traffic calming through development charges, through the development process, or private sponsors. And we'll gladly do that. Again, we'll put that information together for you in the follow-up report. And the last item was that it was a recommendation that staff report back on options and implications for a program to provide radar display units based on neighborhood petitions or on a cost recovery basis outside of the warrant or traffic calming process. And once again, we'll provide that information to you in this follow-up report. So Sergeant Bistus is here if there's any specific questions from him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cozzi. There are a few. Why don't we start over here with Councillor Duddeck, since she deserves some of the credit for this.
Thank you. Thank you very much for attending this evening. I guess, and I'm sure you're completely aware of this, the recurring theme that we heard the other evening at our committee meeting, much like we hear from many of our residents, is enforcement. And we understand how difficult it is to juggle that in amongst all the other duties that you have to provide the community. And I guess that's the one reason I was asking the question whether or not there was something we as a municipality could do to offset the demand on a police officer. But again, as Mr. Cozzi had said, no, it's you who can make those charges. Have we increased the enforcement, traffic enforcement on the streets in Oakville from what we have in the past as our population has been growing? Can you maybe enlighten a bit on that?
Again, I don't have the stats on that, but I will get that for you. But what we do as the Halton Regional Police Service, we have a couple, we've implemented, sorry, I was choking there earlier, a couple of new projects that we have. We have a project which is Cop Logic. I don't know if you, Cop Logic, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. And what it is, it's on our website for citizens that have issues with speeding or any type of traffic enforcement that they'd like to see done. So basically, it comes in, the complainant there has to put their name and email in there, and it comes straight to my office. So what happens is, once I get that letter, it generates a call. So I'm in charge of our district response team in Oakville, but it's only 6 members. So it's not, I'm sorry, there's only 6 members. So you have to understand there's about 4,000 side streets in the town of Oakville, and there's only 6 officers. So we try our best. But what we do is we have these new analytical police stuff that the analytical stuff that we use there. And what it does is it shows us on a map the areas that need enforcement. So if there is complaints, we know about it. And we have our officers, and what we do is we send out our uniform officers, the guys that are on the road, like there's 20 or whatever officers are on the road, and they monitor those areas. And if there is a concern there, it comes back to the district response team, and they target that area. And the other thing, I'm sorry. And what else we use, we have auxiliary officers, and we also have cops, citizens on patrol, and their eyes and ears, and they go out there and they do the speed signs. And
so when you do a blitz per se, what time frame are you dealing with? Are you dealing with, like I know back to school you target around the elementary schools, understandably. Do you do like a week in order to get the full, what shall I say, traffic behavior in a certain time frame. Sometimes a weekend is totally different
Yes.
than a school day or work day.
Yes. We had a successful project. It was Project Get Back, and that was targeting drivers that would not stop for the school buses. So we found there was an issue from Cop Logic. Again, people were calling, sending us emails. People are not stopping for buses. So the Halton Regional Police developed this Project Get Back, which was successful, and we still do it. So we know that there's an issue. Drivers are not stopping for school buses, and we usually target the hours of 7 in the morning till 9 o'clock, and then we go back in the afternoon.
So, and I'm glad you raised Cop Logic, I was not aware of that. So if somebody was witnessing, I know some of the residents have been saying they've been wanting an increased presence, and again, I realize you're trying to juggle, the demands across the community. Other than through Cop Logic or the other program, Get Back, an average person, if they call in, does it have to be a group of residents, or can it be an individual? Like sometimes people invariably say, well, should I get a petition to indicate that there's a problem in the area, other than maybe what our staff would be able to provide you in their traffic studies? So an individual can still call and
Yes.
ask for that to be
Yes.
attended?
Yes. A citizen can call, and I'll provide my number at the end if you'd like, and they can call me. You may regret it. Well, so we also issue warning letters, because I heard someone had mentioned about warning letters. So if a citizen observes erratic behavior on a driver, he gets that license plate. Again, he goes onto our website, and there's an area on our website, traffic complaints, and you fill out, it's, drop down, fill it all out, comes right to me, and then we issue a letter to the registered owner of that vehicle.
Just on that point, I received one of those letters when my son first started driving, and it was a perfect opportunity to use that as a teaching mechanism. And I called up your offices. They were a little surprised. I thanked them for the letter. But again, parents to be aware, especially if it is the parent's vehicle,
Yes.
that the person is doing this. So that's a very good program. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for attending this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duddeck. Councillor Giddings, did I see your hand?
You certainly did, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for coming out. So it's road watch or traffic complaints on the HRPS website?
Correct, sir. It's
Or cop.
Yeah, it's www.Halton Regional Police.
Right?
And I believe it's the first box on the far left, and you click that drop down, it's an area that says traffic complaints. You click that box, and then it tells you like if it's stop signs, speeding, aggressive driving, and it comes right to my office.
Great. And you'd mentioned the photo or the radar signs, the display units.
Yes, sir.
It was my question to staff to say, I understand those can be upgraded to do everything photo radar does except issue a ticket. And the concern from staff, as Mr. Cozzi let us know tonight, was that we aren't able to go to the MTO and get that information. If I filled out that Cop Logic or Road Watch,
Yes, sir.
you would do that service, would you not?
Well, if
To,
you'd,
to run the plate, if you will?
well, what happens is when the complaint comes in, we always have to verify that license plate. So correct, we'd run that plate to make sure that that's the vehicle that the party's talking about, saying, because they could say, it's a white Jag and it's a black BMW. So then we wouldn't send a warning letter to that individual because the plate was wrong. So yes, we would check the plate.
All right, so I guess that's another discussion possibly. If we were to move forward with upgrading those units, is that the kind of thing that HRPS, because it's a continuation of Road Watch, it's just instead of a phone call, it's a digital picture. Further
Again,
discussion?
Yes, I won't be able to answer that.
You saw where I was going with
Yes.
that one. Councillor Duddeck talked about school zones and how you have some great projects throughout the year, whether it be parking issues, whether it be speeding, whatever. Do you have any enforcement specific to high school areas, whether it be morning or lunchtime or when school exits?
Well, I don't have stats for that.
No, that's
but-
fair.
But what I do know is the town of Oakville and the Halton Regional Police had implemented, it was with the traffic enforcement officers that take pictures of vehicles that are parking in the high school areas and the public schools to keep the flow of traffic
Right.
moving. We have high school liaison officers that are dedicated to schools, and they generally patrol that school. So I wouldn't know too much about that area, because that's a different area for me. That's more Sergeant Clayton's.
All right, and do you, one of the comments that came up at committee last week was whether speeding was an ongoing issue. Do you get more calls and emails in the spring when people have their windows open and they're out?
It's steady,
It's year-round?
yes. It's
It's good for job security, incredibly frustrating for residents.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hutchins.
Yes, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
It's very interesting. I hadn't heard about cop logic before. Do you know of any communities that have perhaps vehicles that look like police vehicles but actually aren't, but are used for traffic calming purposes and moved around various places? Have you ever heard of that?
I have heard of that, sir. I know the Halton Regional Police had a project many years ago. They had a vehicle that they just had on the side of the road. I don't know how successful that was. Again, I don't have stats, but that's definitely something that we can look into.
Yes, I think that I don't want to be tying up police time on something like that, but that's something that somebody could be
Yes.
driving around and parked and then drive around somewhere else and park, and that may frighten people to.
Well, what a lot of people, well, I know, I don't know which municipality it was, what they would do is they took an older cruiser and they just left it. And then they, didn't tie up any officers, but again, that's something I'll have to look into.
Great idea, because that way you could move them around, park them, and excellent.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty, let's turn to the other wing here. Councillor Elgar, are you desirous of going next?
I can. I just wonder, is speeding more prevalent in Oakville than the other 3 municipalities on a per capita basis?
Again, that's something I wouldn't know right yet. I don't have those stats on that. Sorry.
You looking for bragging rights?
Well, no, but it doesn't matter. Any councillor you talk to in any municipality in Ontario, speeding is the #1 issue everywhere.
Yes, sir.
And yet, they're all people that live either on the street or in the streets surrounding them. It's not all the people driving from Milton down to Oakville, I don't think. So it's within us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, going along, who might be next? Councillor Grant.
Thank you. Living in College Park, which includes Ridge Road, I'm a frequent flyer of the Halton Road Watch program, which I've found to be very successful, and people I've suggested to it would be successful. I appreciate you giving out the web address, but you kind of undersold the fact that just last week you released an app.
Yes, I was just going to mention that.
Okay, there we go.
With
So
the-
if you click on Fowler Report, you can get Halton Road Watch. Most people have their phones with them. And I love this because it was often when I was walking down the street and saw somebody doing something immaculately stupid. And I would try and figure out what they're, try and write down everything about the car. So I love the fact that you now have this on a phone app because I've got my phone with me all the time.
Yes.
And I would appreciate it. I realize that you've got a whole other group of people who deal with promotions of stuff, but I think promoting this would go a long way because I think most people understand the police can't be everywhere at all times.
Yes, sir.
So if we've got our own citizens keeping eyes on the road with Halton Road Watch using this app, that would be quite useful.
Just don't use it while you're driving.
Oh, ignore a complaint from Trafalgar this afternoon for me then.
Councillor Adams, I believe you might be next.
I thank the police for being here, but I actually have a question for Mr. Cozzi. So when the appropriate time is, I'd like to go
Councillor
back.
Shinna, do you have anything here? I do not. All right, Sergeant, thank you very much for coming and sharing your information with us. I'd like to take the opportunity that you being here provides me to mention that the Halton Regional Police Service are right now beginning the triennial, that's every 3 years, business of building the next 3-year business plan for the service. And you will see, the public will see opportunities, invitations in the media to participate at the public consultations that the police will be conducting all over Oakville and indeed all over Halton. Everyone is welcome to come to that. The police take seriously their job and their duty, and they're here to help. We have an outstanding police force with incredible statistics on the performance side, and there is no, I know as the chair of the police that there is no hesitation whatsoever in the police to dealing with the public's concerns. The police truly are here to help, and our police, more than any other police service in this country, although all of Canada's police subscribe to the Peel principles, but the Peel principles, Sir Robert Peel's principles for police, boil down to a community can only have the policing that it wants and values, and the community are the police, and the police are the community. And our force lives that ethic every day, in every way. So I urge the public to engage with the police. The police board meets every month. They meet in public. Every member of the public is welcome to bring their issues there, as welcome as people are to bring them here. And I hope that council will keep in mind that it's not efficient for us to try to duplicate the police. And I assure you the police can do their job better than we can do their job. So with that, I hope that your visit will not have been in vain. I appreciate very much the time that you gave us.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we have a motion on the floor for the balance, but Councillor Duddeck.
I believe Councillor Adams, and I actually also wanted to ask Mr. Cozzi a question.
Well, I tell you
afterwards.
what, because of your timely reminder, why don't you go ahead of cut in ahead of Councillor Adams.
Sorry. Mr. Cozzi, I guess I was a little concerned when I heard some comments, albeit maybe in jest, about erecting or putting something on the municipal side of the road in order to sort of enforce their own version of traffic calming. The only ones who do any kind of traffic calming is the municipality. In other words, people don't put rocks, boulders, whatever on the side.
Through you, Mayor Burton, there's the issue of encroachments, and then there's the issue of the suggested, can residents apply for, can the town manage a program for residents to provide their own traffic calming? I'll admit I struggle with that concept. It's not really the issue of liability, it's the issue of the other problems that traffic calming measures create. So remember last week we talked about the example of 8th Line, and we learned a valuable lesson of when not to use speed cushions. And there's examples, and you mentioned one, where people, you're getting calls from residents on a certain street, I forget which, saying, well, since you installed the speed cushions on such and such a street, people to avoid those are coming down our street. So now if we have neighborhoods that are proposing to pay for their own traffic calming, are we basically pushing the problem over to another neighborhood? I think that's something, we will discuss in our report, but I'll be candid with you. I struggle with the concept of a resident-sponsored program outside of a regulated or regimented traffic calming program approved by council.
And I guess that again speaks to the issue that when we do implement something, we go through a very thorough public process whereby the public can comment and be part of the decision-making process. And I guess my concern is, as you say, if a neighboring street is being impacted detrimentally as a result of something, we can't be taking it into our own hands. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adams.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cozzi, thank you for answering the question with regards to the scoring system that was in the appendix. What I was really seeking was to find out when we would get to see what the ranking system would produce. Sometimes when you make a model, it's not until you run the model and see what it spits out at the other end and do a gut check and say, yeah, that makes sense. Do you feel comfortable that you've got it right? So I wondered if there's a way of us getting a chance to see what that model produces to determine whether we're comfortable with the way it's working.
Through you, Mayor Burton. Yes, you will see it as soon as it's ready. What we're doing is we're going to rerun surveys. We're basing our, I think the report makes reference to there's approximately 12 other roads in town that qualify for traffic calming. That's based on old survey data that we have. We'd like to update all that and see if that list is now 12 or is it 14 or 15 or something less, something more. And we will prioritize it once we get approval, I guess, tonight, and probably in the coming months, once we get the survey ready. And we'll provide that to you, and if you'd like, we could provide it to you perhaps at that follow-up report that I keep talking about.
That's great. I'm very comfortable with that time frame, and I think it makes sense to put it in the context of the financial decisions we have to make as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cozzi. Thank you, Councillor Adams. Thank you, everyone, for your contribution to this discussion. I'd like, in closing, before I call the vote on the two items, I'd like to stress that we have an enforcement organization called the Halton Regional Police Service. It stands ready, willing, and able to do the enforcement job, and we are right now engaged in the task of creating the business plan for the next 3 years, and this business plan performs this function. It drives the annual budget of the service. So if we want more enforcement, this is the time to show up and say so. And if we're, if you follow my own private, personal rule about this, I wouldn't tell them how to do it. I would just tell them what I would like the result to be. But if you show up and tell them, the experts there with their vast experience and their great sensitivity to our community can do a better job. Help the police do the job you want. Participate in the budget consultation, in the business plan consultation, which in effect is a way of participating in the annual budget consultation in time to actually make an impact. So with that, I'll call the vote on items 3 and 4. Councillor Giddings? Maybe I won't.
Just for clarification, I guess you've provided the clarification. I wasn't sure whether the motion was on the table or not.
Yes, it was moved and then separated, so it's still moved. We just voted on the balance.
Okay, well, I apologize, Your Worship, as well. Then I'd like to just speak to the motion before it's voted on. Is that okay?
Well then, speak away.
I do appreciate it, and I just, unfortunately, I won't be able to support the motion. I've had ongoing discussions with this, with Mr. Cozzi. You know, there's the problem, and I am continue to have in the back of my head the coroner's report from 2010 that stated unequivocally, if you get hit by a car going 50 kilometers an hour, you have a 67% chance of dying. If you get hit by a car going 30 kilometers an hour, you have a 5% chance of dying. I would rather err on the side of caution of giving any pedestrian on our streets more than a 50-50 chance of living. Somewhere around the 40 kilometer range on our residential streets. The problem with Ms. Fowler and Mr. Ralph, that I would imagine sometimes the speed doesn't meet the warrants, and we had a conversation about why a certain speed on a certain street, and it was due to street engineering and roadway engineering, and I don't think we factor in enough pedestrian fatality rates. I don't think we factor in you know, a need to change the culture. We sit very happily behind, you know, it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, and it's our neighbors, so therefore what can we do? Ho-hum, let's try some stuff around the edges. I remember as a kid, my mother throwing this pop can out in the garbage with the newspaper and all the other garbage and dragging it down to the end of the street every week. Now she takes my daughter by the hand and shows her where her yogurt cup goes in the recycling bin. It's a cultural change. It has to happen, but it needs to happen somewhere. And I don't think throwing our hands up in the air and saying that, well, you know, it doesn't fit the street is the way to go. So with that, I'll close, but I just wanted those remarks on the record, and I would also ask for a recorded vote.
No problem. Recorded votes are available on request. Councillor Giddings?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I concur with Councillor O'Meara. I'd like to see greater use of 40-kilometer-an-hour speed limits on our streets. We have extensive areas where there are no curbs or sidewalks, forcing people and cyclists and kids to be on the street. I'd hoped for some form of recommendation for these roads. Plans for increased education and enforcement, I would have felt much better if I'd seen something there to try to work with the residents. And the method of using radar display units as part of the HRPS Road Watch program. I appreciate very much most of the information and the work that's been done by staff. I guess I'm speaking out of frustration on behalf of myself and the residents I talk to pretty well daily in terms of what can be done to keep their streets safe and their children safe. So I'm not able to support it as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Giddings. Councillor Grant.
I appreciate the comments from Councillor Giddings and O'Meara. But what we've heard repeatedly from our traffic engineering staff is that people quite often don't really pay attention to the speed limits. And the reduction in speed sounds like a great thing if you put on a sign and remind people of it. But unfortunately, you still have to get the buy-in from the people who are driving. I think that what we're approving tonight, or would hopefully approve tonight, is a few steps to get people to try and slow down. And then once we get the buy-in from the public that, okay, we have to be more cautious when we're driving, we can revisit looking at the speeds that they go. But frankly, if you've got somebody who feels like they have to get somewhere right away, they're not going to care if it's 50 or 40 kilometers per hour. They're just going to put their foot down on that gas. So I'm going to be supporting the motion this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Any other speakers? Councillor Hutchins.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Grant. Lowering the speeds doesn't really help. What does help is narrowing the roads. So I'm hoping that our number 7, which was aspect of the town coming back to us with looking at ways in which citizens can look at narrowing the roads in their neighborhoods if necessary, and it would be run by the town, and it would be a proper town organized system which will allow us to do that. So I will be supporting the motion based on my hope to get some feedback from the town on that.
Any others? Councillor Adams.
I want to thank the other members for the discussion this evening, and I'd like to know whether what they seek is a across-the-board 40-kilometer-hour speed limit, or whether they would like to see an expansion of the zones that are under discussion. And if that's the case, then I would certainly support an amendment to the motion that would ask our staff to review the results of the expanded speed reduction zones and to bring back further opportunities to expand these zones in the future, perhaps in 2017.
Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. I appreciate that very much. The proposed 40K centres in the area of the senior centres and libraries, parks are great. The private schools, it's welcomed, although most of the schools that are mentioned are on, in my area, in Councillor Hutchins' area, are on Cornwall and Lakeshore. And I can't think of any youth that walk to those schools, given the location and the geographic area they pull from. Most of them are drive-to locations. A blanket 40K on all streets? No, I don't think that's necessary. But I think given some of the stats we have and some of the frustration that we have over traffic calming that's been in place for 12 years, 14 years in some cases, and nothing has happened. We've reduced, we've painted, we've we've run radar, whatever, we've had flashing signs, and it's still not there. So I appreciate that. I'd still like to see the increased education, enforcement, and but I very much appreciate your thought. Would it help? Definitely.
Councillor Adams?
Then would you like to co-sponsor with me that amendment? Not that you need to co-sponsor an amendment, but I would move that amendment if you thought that would be a helpful thing.
If you could just refresh us over on the other side.
That staff review the results of the speed reduction zones change and report back on opportunities for further speed reduction zones in the future.
That would be great, and perhaps we can include education in there as well. I don't know whether that be...
How about that staff report on opportunities for further educational efforts at speed reduction?
Have you got that written out? Could you write that out?
I could write that out.
Would you please? Councillor Chisholm.
Driver? Because we're all talking about education and so forth. Let's get right to the crux of the problem. It's our drivers in our neighborhood. There's some kind of strategy that we can put in place. So pedestrian/driver safety program. Education program, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll see what he includes. Councillor O'Meara?
Maybe while Councillor Adams is writing that up, I would just thank him for that offer as well. And again, if it would, if that expansion would include residential areas that don't so happen to have a school or a community center in them, but still find 50 to 55 kilometers an hour too fast for the streets, I would welcome that entirely. Thank you.
Would Council like a bio break while Councillor Adams works on this omnibus amendment?
I move a bio break.
All right, I will call a brief recess, 5 minutes. All right, we're back together. I'll call the meeting back to order. The amendment is by Councillor Adams and Councillor Giddings, and it's in two parts. And the first part is that staff review the results of the speed reduction zones and report back on opportunities to expand the speed reduction zones in the future. And the second part reads that staff report back on opportunities for further public education for pedestrians and drivers to reduce local speeding. And if everybody's satisfied with that?
So is that number 5 and 6?
Yes, it's two new parts. So I believe everybody, I've waited to the end for hopefully a mayoral final word on this. First, we have a method in our procedure bylaw for any pair of councillors who wish to put before council a need to change the speed limit on a street that feels it needs it. We have a mechanism for that. It's called a request for report. It generates a report by staff. The staff report reports to council whether it supports or not, whether staff support or not the idea, and then council makes the determination. So and by similar methods to that, we have lowered the speed limit to 40 on streets around town, and we heard tonight that on Morrison, where the speed limit is 40, it doesn't work. So we've had a lot of work over the generations here, not just this council, but generations of councils before, that it's easy to want things, but it's not necessarily always true that they work the way you intend. So that's number one. There's a method to get a 40 anywhere you want it, and we had evidence here tonight that it didn't work on Morrison. But whether it worked on Morrison or not is irrelevant to the mechanism, the opportunity to do it is always with us here. The other thing that I heard that I'm glad disappeared was there was a desire for enforcement. And I want to underline that enforcement is a police activity, and we have a partnership with the police. They are the enforcement arm, and in this particular case, we're the legislative arm. So you wouldn't, I hope everybody sees, believes, and understands the wisdom of that. We set the speed limit, the police enforce it, and they are responsive to calls for service. So with that, I'll call the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Any opposed? The amendment carries unanimously. I'll now,
An amendment to item 4 or 3?
Councillor Adams, which item are you adding this to? 3 or 4?
Oh, this is to be added to item 3.
Okay. So, you okay with that?
But it's not 5 and 6, it's 8 and 9.
No one gave
They
it a
would, they would
number.
be new
You're-
items,
you're
they'd
gonna
be
add
new
the-
8, they'd be new 8 and 9s to item 3.
You're going to add the numbers. All right. So now, I'm going to call the recorded vote on the main motion. All those in favor of the main motion as amended, please rise to be named. Councillor Lischina, Councillor Adams, Councillor Grant, Councillor Knoll, Councillor Elgar, Mayor Burton, Councillor Hutchins, Councillor Giddings, Councillor Chisholm, Councillor Duddeck, Councillor Robinson, and Councillor O'Meara. Thank you, one and all. Now, we just had a demonstration of a very important parliamentary skill, I'll call it, but it's actually a life skill. And that was, we had a disagreement, and someone thought to ask, in effect, one member asked the other a variation on the question, what do we have to do to change it to get your support? And I thank Councillor Adams for doing that, and I thank Councillor O'Meara for his positive and constructive response to that. And when we do that, we are fulfilling the highest hope and ambition that our town has for us as a council. And it's been a lovely moment, and I thank every one of you for your part in it. So, now that we have dealt with our standing committee reports, that's right. We're moving on to Administrative Services Committee. And this is the one in which Councillor Knoll declared a pecuniary interest with respect to Clause 3 of Item 6, which is the budget for the Kerr Street BIA. So I'd look for a motion for the entire report. Councillor Duddeck, thank you, and a second. Councillor Chisholm, thank you. And I will call the vote on everything except Clause 3 of Item 6 so that Councillor Knoll can participate. And then I will call the vote on Clause 3. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that carries. Now, I'm calling the vote on Clause 3, and let the minutes show that Councillor Knoll is not participating in that. Councillor Duddeck, did you have a comment? No. All those in favor of Clause 3? Any opposed? And Clause 3 is also adopted. So now, it's with great pleasure that I turn to the main number 1 item on our agenda this evening, and that is the quarterly report and authorization request from Oakville Enterprises Corporation. And if you'll give your attention to the CEO and President, Mr. Rob Lister, we will deal with this matter.
Everything on your screen? Is it on? Oh, there it is. Okay, thanks. Mayor Burton, members of council, thank you very much for letting us present our quarterly update this evening. Very pleased to be able to do that. With me tonight, I have Scott Moody, Jim Collins, Mike Brown, Irene Trumbull, Mary Caputi, Simon Abbott. Thanks, everybody. This evening, Mary Caputi is going to do a presentation. We're going to focus on some of the achievements and progress at Oakville Hydro. So I'm going to ask Mary to come up and make the presentation.
Thank you, Rob. Mayor Burton, members of council, good evening. This evening, I will be providing an update of Oakville Enterprises Corporation initiatives and activities for the first quarter. Earlier Earlier this year, Oakville Hydro, the local distribution company, was excited to receive a very prestigious award for its 2015 performance among its peers. Oakville Hydro was awarded the 2015 LDC Performance Excellence Award as the exceptional leader in the industry by the Electricity Distributors Association. And this award was sponsored by the Ontario Power Generation. This award exemplifies Oakville Hydro's leadership in occupational health and safety, operational and customer service excellence, its financial operations, conservation and demand management, and its contribution to the community. Safety continues to be our top priority. Through our Staying Alive safety program, our overarching goal is to enhance the safety culture of the organization, ensuring that it is top of mind every day, all day, at work and at home. Oakville Hydro, the local distribution company, has had no lost time injuries for over 3 consecutive years, which amounts to 886,000 hours. Across the entire organization, Oakville Enterprises Corporation, that is approximately 3.3 million hours. New this year, Oakville Hydro conducted a public safety awareness survey to the residents of Oakville. This will be an annual provincial survey to educate residents about the electricity safety hazards. Oakville Hydro educated the residents through local ads, pamphlets, and just last Saturday at the Keep Calm and Adapt event. On May 17th, Oakville Hydro is co-hosting a Powerline Safety Seminar. This seminar is designed specifically for contractors and businesses that are deemed highest risk occupations for power line exposures, such as roofers, siders, landscapers, construction workers, and excavators. How have we grown? Based on the latest public information, Oakville is ranked 5th highest of the 73 utilities in the province in growth of customers, which is approximately 2.68%. Oakville has also seen a moderate increase in its renewable generation projects. There are currently 65 rooftop solar customers. In 2015, the town of Oakville added 3 solar top installations at 16 Mile Sports Complex, the Glen Abbey Community Center, and the River Oaks Recreational Center. Our electricity rates. The Ontario Energy Board recently announced the new electricity rates for the province of Ontario. These rates became effective yesterday. For a typical residential customers, this will mean a $3.13 per month increase to their monthly bill, or equivalent to a 2.5% increase. Later this fall, every residential customer will now be receiving monthly bills instead of the every other month they're currently receiving. On the conservation side, studies have concluded that over the past 10 years, the average Ontario consumers has reduced and lowered their energy consumption from 1,000 kilowatt hours to about 750 kilowatt hours. This average is consistent with the residents of Oakville. The contributing factors are time of use pricing, conservation, and the individual metering of multi-residential complexes. Oakville Hydro's distribution charge is one component of the electricity bill. This is depicted on the pie chart and accounts for, on average, 19% of the electricity bill. As the local distribution company, we are responsible to provide reliable power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days, and have a goal to minimize the amount of power outages. In fact, in 2015, Oakville's total average period of interruption was 28.8 minutes per customer. This is a great accomplishment, and Oakville Hydro was rated second by the Canadian Electricity Association for the highest index of reliability. We are helping Oakville residents with their electricity bills through two programs. The first is the Ontario Electricity Support Program, or the OESP, which became in effect early January of this year. So based on families' financial situations, customers are eligible for up to a $50 monthly credit on their bills. To date, there are just over 600 Oakville customers on this program. The second program is considered an emergency support program called LEAP, the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. This provides eligible customers with a one-time annual credit for up to $500 on their bill when they are in need. In 2015, there were 91 participants for this program. Oakville Hydro continues with its program to strengthen relationships with businesses, commercial and industrial customers. A focus to connect with customers, obtain feedback on what they want with their electricity needs, and provide conservation program offerings. Last fall, we hosted an event with key customers, and most recently, we held an event that hosted employees from the region of Halton, the town of Oakville, and various Oakville schools. This event also provided a tour of our 24-hour control room. With energy conservation being a key initiative and requirement for Oakville Hydro to deliver, an award is presented to one company annually. In March, at the Oakville Awards for Business Excellence, Denninger's Foods of the World was the recipient of the 2015 Oakville Hydro Conservation Leadership Award. Denninger's, which is located on Lakeshore, participated in multiple energy-efficient projects to reduce their electricity costs. Their reduction of energy consumption was equivalent to powering 24 homes for a year. This quarter, our organization has been involved in many events in the community of Oakville. We have highlighted a few, such as Curl for Kids' Sake, Bowl for Kids' Sake, the Home Depot coupon events, the Oakville Clean Sweep, and we look forward to partnering with the town on May 28th for the upcoming Oakville Energy Fair. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Ms. Vice President. We appreciate the information. Mr. Lister, is there more?
No, that was it. If there are
That
any
was it?
questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Well, you've got a forest of hands here. I'm going to start over here tonight. First hand being Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. I was starting to jot it down before the slide slipped by, and the point that was being made on the slide was that Oakville will move to one monthly fee, and then it slipped by. Can you flip back to that? Because I want to understand what that means. No, there was something, there was another comment after that one.
Monthly bill?
Your pie chart. I believe you might have
There
been
is.
on the cusp of making the point that the electricity charge does not stick to our fingers in any way, that all we get is that 19% piece of the bill for operating the system.
Right. So is that first paragraph, I just wanted you just to unpack that. And I think the mayor just assisted, but I just wanted clarity on what that means. Oakville Hydro's portion of the bill will move to one fixed monthly charge.
So currently, for Oakville Hydro's charge, there is a partial fixed charge and a partial volumetric charge, and over time, that will be just one fixed charge.
And how will that be calculated? Simply based on an address or
Yeah, it'll be
the meter?
consistent for every residential customer.
And then different, I assume, for business customers?
That's correct.
Okay.
That will not impact the percentage of the total, however.
No, I understand. It's just it's the way you divide it
That's
up.
right.
I get it. I just want to understand that. The second point was that you're moving from bi-monthly to monthly bills. And why is that? And is that, is there a cost to that? Like, there's obviously a cost, but is what's the cost benefit of doing that, I guess is really what I'm coming down to.
Okay.
It just seems like an expensive and potentially unnecessary change, because was there been a burning demand for it by your customers?
So this is actually a provincial mandate.
Oh, okay.
It has been for the province. The Ontario Energy Board has mandated that every utility must be on monthly billing for residential customers effective January of 2017 at the very latest.
I can help. It's a greatly desired change. We have to pay the power bill from the province monthly.
Right.
And so it's good to be able to collect monthly instead of every 2 months.
Yeah, okay. I didn't see it.
It
that
actually
way.
reduces a cost.
It reduces the cost to the utility of.
Because we used to have to borrow money to.
We're financing for 30 days. We're factoring. I get it. Okay. Okay.
As a businessman, you would appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I didn't really understand who was driving this, but I didn't pick up that piece of it.
It's one of those cases where we got listened to.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Grant?
Following on that, what is the cost benefit to the consumer, though?
I'll try that one. One of the advantages is you're not hit with a large bill every second month, so you're getting half the bill every month, and so for some people it helps with budgeting. And overall, we anticipate that there will be the benefit in terms of lower costs. We are pushing our drive for e-billing and for automatic payment schemes in order to reduce our costs, and that be all part of the same drives to moving over to monthly billing. So in time, we'll see that it won't cost customers more. And we have some startup costs that we'll need to absorb.
But, well, I guess the question really is, when you split the bill monthly from bi-monthly, does it mean a little bit more every month? So if somebody were to connect their 2 monthly bills, would that be more than the bi-monthly bill?
No.
No?
There's no additional cost. It's just instead of billing every second, we're billing monthly, so that from the customer's perspective, their total outflow in the year will not be more.
And when you're talking about sort of stabilizing the bill or stabilizing the costs, I know with me, 7 o'clock p.m., it's laundry time. Go crazy, do all the laundry you can. Would people who are responsible in following these rules get benefits, or would they be penalized by the others who may not be following that rule?
Yes, if you shift your electricity use to a lower charge period, you get the direct benefit of a lower bill.
Right, but if it gets stabilized at some point.
There's no question here, you get the benefit.
It's concerned about consumer costs. All right, thank you very much.
And so are we. Anyone else over here? Councillor Knoll.
I'm going to wait for the second time. Just on the monthly billing thing again, we provide a billing service, obviously, to the region of Halton for water. How does that impact that arrangement, or has that already been dealt with? Are they able to work with us, or is that still going to appear every second month?
So unfortunately, currently, we will be doing every second month with the region. There have been some discussions, however, we haven't reached a change. So for every other month, you will get a water.
Okay, so 1 month hydro only, the other month will be hydro
Hydro
and
and
water.
water.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps at the regional council, you can consider that. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you very much. Question regarding, I believe it was a 25% drop from 2009 in the average home energy consumption. Is the low-hanging fruit behind us now in terms of CFLs and LEDs and more efficient appliances and time of use savings? I'm just wondering, obviously we like to see people use less energy. Any further big drops that we see coming, or have we pretty well bottomed out?
I don't think we've bottomed out at all. There's quite a run on LED lights these days because of the coupon events, and so just LED lights alone when you're replacing incandescents can be significant over time. And again, we work on pool pumps, we work on HVAC systems, putting more efficient furnaces in, and so there's still a lot of opportunities in all communities in order to reduce consumption and people's behaviors.
So is the technology getting to a point where in another 7 years we could see another 25% drop?
I think the piece that should give you cause for optimism about further reductions, further increases in conservation, is that the take-up of the technology that you're mentioning is not 100% or anything close to it yet. So we've still got a lot of take-up benefit, let's call it, ahead of us.
We have more residents and homes to take advantage of what we offer.
Absolutely. Yes.
Good stuff, thanks.
And let's put in a plug now for is this a time to put in a plug for a smart thermostat?
Sure, yeah. Well, smart thermostats make a lot of sense in terms of being able to control them remotely, and plus they have intelligence in that they do efficient or effective use or effective control of your HVAC system. So certainly there's energy savings to be had.
What's our estimated take-up of smart thermostats so far?
Our peak savers?
Less than 1%?
No, I think we're at almost 2%.
2%. So therefore, we've got room to grow on this file. So I raised that one as just an example of the kind of progress that's, the low-hanging fruit has not all been harvested. Anyone else? Councillor Chisholm.
The typical average residential consumption, understanding in real time, 2016, we're down to 750 kilowatts, is that correct? Is it?
Kilowatt hours.
Kilowatt hours. With the future of electric cars, I'm not sure if we're having our own little depots and it'll be charged like you're being charged for gas. Would the future thinking that we would do these in our homes and consumption would start to rise again? Has that been taken into consideration?
Certainly consumption would rise. The premise is that it will rise off-peak, and Ontario has an abundance of off-peak power. So consumption occurring in the middle of the night is actually a good thing for Ontario. It's not a bad thing.
Anything else? Thank you very much, Councillor. Then perhaps a motion to receive the report is in order. Councillor Knoll and Councillor Lischina, all in favor? Opposed, if any? And can I take it that that's a motion as presented in the agenda to receive the report, approve the resolution, and authorize the mayor to sign the resolutions? Thank you. So the next item is a happy event. We need to appoint Councillor Ray Chisholm, our new colleague, to the Administrative Services Committee so that he can actually vote there as well as attend there. Councillor Duddeck has chosen the honor to move that. Councillor Knoll, thank you for your second. Any discussion? I ask jokingly. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Now, you're fully fledged now, Councillor. You're fully fledged. You're ready to fly. You have your solo wings now. Council, on the matters in the new business of the agenda, Councillor Knoll and I would like to withdraw the action on aircraft noise item, which we will bring back at another time. And I would ask you if you would like to deal with either of the others tonight, or if you'd like to let them wait until the next council meeting. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar.
On the issue of the Municipal Elections Modernization Act, I would ask that we could deal with it tonight, and the reason being they're going to cut off input next week at the province, and I think it would be good if this council could put their input forward.
Yes, Council. In support of Councillor Elgar, let me say that I've been invited to testify before the committee on May 5th, and so if you were to pass this, if you were of a mind to pass this tonight, I would be able to enhance my presentation to the committee with the weight of your support. Councillor Duddeck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I wanted to have a bit of time to consider, but given the time constraints, I guess my only concern is similar to what was outlined in the motion, that it's if the municipality chooses to pursue the option, it's basically still our right to say yay or nay and how we go forward to secure public input, whether through a referendum or public participation. Is that correct? Like, it's not a done deal, it's just saying we'd like you to give us the right one way or another?
So that's in the bill, and I'm planning to testify in support of that. Councillor Adams.
Thank you, and yes is the answer to your question. As a seconder of the motion, I would like to see it move forward so that it can have the impact of the province in the discussions that are upcoming. I think because we are bringing this forward tonight, I think it is important perhaps that we read it out loud for members of the public who might be watching. This is about the way in which we would handle municipal elections in the future, and it does deal with it. One of the important questions is the use of ranked balloting, and that is still waiting for a regulation that would detail it, and that, of course, I mean, you can't set your election system up until you know what you're actually dealing with. So there's a concept there, but not the details, and I think we owe it to everybody to consider it if we're given that opportunity. The other issue I think that is important is one around the banning of corporate and union donations. And again, that's something that I've for many, many years supported, and I'd like to see that go forward.
So, Councillor Elgar or Councillor Adams, which of you would like to be the reader?
I'll read it.
Okay, and did you have something before or after?
Well, I was just going to mention that if there's really, the ranked balloting, it is out there. It's on the provincial website on how it would work if in fact it does come into being, and we will have a choice as a council as to whether we want to do it or not going forward.
Yeah.
So
just to underscore that one little point, ranked balloting is spelled out in the Act, and the ministry has told me that the province will be prescriptive in great detail about how it's to be done if a council elects to do it. So with that, Councillor Elgar, perhaps you could read your motion, and then I'll look for a mover and seconder to waive the procedure bylaw to permit us to vote on it tonight.
I thank you very much, Mayor Burton. Okay, this is in consideration of the Municipal Elections Modernization Act. It's moved by Councillor Elgar, seconded by Councillor Adams. Whereas Bill 181, Municipal Elections Modernization Act 2016 has passed second reading and is currently under consideration by the Standing Committee on Finance and Economic Affairs, and whereas the proposed changes, if passed, give municipalities the authority to pass a bylaw to use ranked ballot voting beginning in 2018 municipal elections, and whereas ranked ballots would allow a voter to rank candidates in order of preference and replace first past the post vote counting, and whereas municipalities that choose to pursue the option of implementing ranked ballots will be required to hold at least one public meeting, and whereas municipalities would have the power to hold a referendum to determine public sentiment for the ranked ballot option, and whereas the bill seeks to give all municipalities the option to ban corporate and union donations, and whereas Bill 181 also proposes to shorten the campaign calendar by opening nominations for candidates on May 1 instead of January 1, create a framework to regulate third-party advertising, including contribution and spending limits, make campaign finance rules clearer and easier to follow for voters, candidates and contributors, remove barriers that could affect electors and candidates with disabilities, and make it easier to add or change information on the voters list. Therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Oakville supports the intent of Bill 181 to modernize the Municipal Elections Act and will undertake consultation with the Oakville public when the framework and details for ranked ballot elections are set out in the regulation. And I so move, and it's the operative part that has the details tonight. So, and I'm pleased to move this, and actually I think we're pretty lucky to have our mayor going down before the legislature committee to also support this and show that we as a council support the mayor. Thank you.
Would two of you like to move and second a motion to suspend the procedure bylaw to permit the vote tonight? Councillor O'Meara, thank you. Councillor Hutchins, thank you. All those in favor of waiving the procedure?
Oh, yes.
On. All those in favor of waiving the bylaw? Any opposed to waiving the bylaw? That carries. Councillor Elgar would like a recorded vote on the main motion. So to show your support for the motion, please rise to be named. Councillor Lischina, Councillor Adams, Councillor Grant, Councillor Knoll, Councillor Elgar, Mayor Burton, Councillor Hutchins, Councillor Giddings, Councillor Chisholm, Councillor Duddeck, Councillor Robinson, Councillor O'Meara. I declare the motion carried unanimously. So now, that's going to wait till the council meeting. We're not waiving the procedure bylaw on that one, I don't believe. Right. In accordance with Section 6 of the procedure bylaw, the following note, this motion will be considered at the next council meeting on May 30th. And that is the motion by myself and Councillor Chisholm requesting the province to amend its policy on autism IBI therapy. So now, are there any requests for reports? Councillor Robinson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor O'Meara and I have a request for a report that's being submitted right now for each of us to look at. On February 17th, the people, 95 signatures from the Amica retirement home on Bronte Road submitted a petition, which I think you all received a copy of, and it was, you know, to do with a crossover device on Bronte Road. And before you now is the actual request for a report that Sean and I have put together with some work from the staff. So I'll just read it out, Your Worship, if you don't mind. That staff be directed to prepare a report relating to the petition dated February 17th this year, submitted by residents and staff from the Amica and Oakville Seniors residents at 160 Bronte Road, requesting that the town install a pedestrian crossover device on Bronte Road in front of the building. That's the motion, and we're requesting your support.
Thank you, councillors. I want to add my voice in support of this, and if there's no other speakers, I will call a vote on the request. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? The request for report is approved, and thank you for bringing that. I wonder if now if we could get a mover and seconder for the bylaws as listed in the agenda. Councillor Lischina, and who hasn't had a chance tonight? Councillor Duddeck. Even though you have, it's the only hands I had. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you. That completes our agenda. It's been delightful working with you, and we are now adjourned.